in any second.
Sorry.
All right. So
This is awful.
imagine that you guys are bankers at the Super Saturday. Vote on the 2 candidates you would hire.
I'm not sure that I want to.
So out of Natalia, Martin, Ken, and Andy, who would you guys hire?
So purely looking at qualifications, I would hire Natalia and Ken. I think. Let me just But the reservations that they have against Natalia and Ken are like stupidest things I've ever seen in my life. Like these are the kinds of things that people think about when they have to make a snap decision, and it's pathetic.
Anybody else?
I would agree with Natalia. I think that she would be a good choice. I also think that Andy Sanchez could be a good choice as well.
Yeah, he went to USC. My husband went to USC. My son went to USC.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I liked Andy, and I also liked Ken, but yeah, I was a little. I mean, I guess I can understand the fact that if he has a family and they need him 24/7, that might be difficult. But I also thought it was kind of a, like you said, Sean, kind of a stupid reason not to like him. Anybody else?
Nope.
Okay, let's see.
I agree with what you guys said. Especially, I mean, like finding people that are qualified. Like, I don't have anything new to add to that, but I agree with what you guys said.
Say they're not qualified. Garbage. Like.
So going through each of the 4 candidates, discuss why the people on your team would or would not hire them. So for Natalia, pretty good. I mean, the only thing is that they might not understand her, I guess. Like they said, but she seems pretty qualified, so. And Martin Street. What does it say that they didn't like about him? Oh, they were concerned that he was trying to leverage a better offer from other firms by playing multiple firms. So I guess that's one reason why you wouldn't want to hire somebody if you're worried that they're just going to leverage the position.
Well, it's going to be quite big.
And then Ken, we talked about, and Andy. I was shocked because Andy, they only didn't like the fact that he had a 2.8 for his undergrad GPA. So
customer service.
That didn't really make sense to me. I feel like if he was qualified, he should.
That's pretty common. I've noticed. When my son went through the recruitment process.
Person now.
Sorry. He had to have a certain GPA.
Really?
So that doesn't surprise me.
But I feel like because it says that he had his business that he was working on, so that's why he didn't have time to study and stuff. And from his SAT and GMAT, which I'm not really sure what GMAT is, but I mean it's clear that he's pretty smart. So
yeah.
So what other information would be useful in making a decision for you guys?
Say that again?
What other information would be useful in making a decision?
39797.
What else would you want to know about the candidates, and how would you get that information?
I haven't seen anything about their work experience. I want more details about that. And I think that's it, really.
Anybody else?
I think you could find the candidates based off of their schooling. I mean, they what do they have? They have a limitation, right? They only search like the top 10 schools, right? The schools.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could always expand the search. Like I said, I mean, I have a hard time only taking education as like a candidate, like finding your candidate. But I do think that the schools are great. But maybe expand the search to like a few more schools, like let it trickle down, because I feel like he limited himself by only selecting the top 10. So they're equally trained, I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter if they're in a different university or whatever. So I think that he needs loyalty.
All right.
Oh no, he's gone.
All right. I guess that was the end of his ideas. Anybody else have any ideas on what more they would want from candidates?
I don't really know what else I would really want to know. I mean, the information that's given to us is pretty simple, but yet it's to the point. I mean, I guess if I was to interview someone, I would like to know what they do for their hobbies and kind of stuff they do on their side. Just, I don't know, get to better feel who they are and what they do with their free time.
Mm-hmm.
Did I get kicked out?
That's probably irrelevant. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, you got dropped.
Did my comment make sense, or I don't know when it cut out? Did I?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're talking about.
Okay. So yeah, schooling, prestigious, find more schools, increase your search, I guess. Sorry, that's what I was saying. I'm not sure how much I said before I got cut out.
So I agree with looking at more schools, and I think he kind of was mentioning that he was wanting to. And then and Taylor, I also agree that kind of like what Sean said, knowing more of their work experience, and not really sure what they talked about in the interviews, because it didn't say like, oh, this is what we talked about in the interviews, but getting to know the person for who they are, more about them would be a good idea.
And how they fit in too with
Yeah.
the rest of the company. That was something we read about in the readings before.
Okay, so part 2, the interview process. Why is there so much disagreement between the senior bankers in the Saturday meeting about which recruits to hire? Is it partly because of the interview process? Could it be because of the types of interviewers or type of interviews?
I think.
I'll go on.
Oh, you can go if you want.
Might there be a better way to learn about the candidates than traditional interviews?
All right. So I think this interview process is kind of stupid. I mean, they have everyone meet up, and in like, I don't know if I can't remember if it happens in a day or if it happens over the course of like 2 days, but they just like kind of put a time crunch on themselves, and they have to make a decision in that amount of time, or else they lose those people. So I feel like the process is really rushed, and they can't really get a really good decision because of that. And that's probably why there's that disagreement and frustration, because the senior bankers want to get home and they want to leave, and yet everyone else still has to sit there and get people.
I agree with what Taylor was saying. In fact, it's kind of scary because they just want to get the decision over, or the procedure over, as soon as possible. So it's organized in their free time, so it can lead to the wrong choice of candidates, and you're getting people that are clearly just not qualified for the job. But then it's also difficult for them to get find the right candidates, because achieving any kind of consensus was difficult. Like it's all done in, yeah, like you said, in a time crunch. So it's
Mhm.
it's more like a at IBC when we were at Badger Creek, they told us like that morning we had to figure out who our leaders were, or we had to come into class tomorrow. So because no one wanted to come to class tomorrow, we just like threw out 3 names, and those were our leaders for the first rotation, and it was terrible. None of them were qualified. None of them knew what they were doing or wanted to even be in their position. And I know what that's like to just throw someone quickly up and into a position that they're just not ready for. So Super Saturday is not so super after all.
Anybody else?
What was the question again?
So what might have the interviewers done differently to get a better consensus of who they wanted to hire? And did they disagree because of the interview process or the types of interviews?
Well, instead of looking at people's personal lives, what they should have done is focused on like a certain set of criteria, I feel like. Because if they focus on that and they have all these good candidates, they can at least figure out who's the best one, instead of trying to look for something detrimental that isn't actually a detriment to anything.
So on the leader thing, it has some suggestions. It says like have the applicants demonstrate the ability to do certain job tasks, which I think would be good. To see if they can actually do the job, not just if they sound qualified. But talking about the time crunch that they're in, if they only have a day to do all the interviews and pick somebody, then they don't really have time to see if they can do the job. I like the idea that they have is spend the whole day with somebody to see what the job is like. I think that would be helpful, because what if you're super qualified, but after a day of doing the work, you're like, well, this isn't for me. And so then they just wasted, all that time and effort. Having them do internships would probably be the smartest thing, I would think, is you kind of recruit them a year early or something and say, hey, like, you'll do an interview for this long, and then after that, then you can do the interview process and see if you like it or anything like that. So
Yeah, I think doing that would be great because it would help weed out people like Martin who just kind of come along later in the process.
mm-hmm.
Because it would only, those type of interviews or those type of like tasks would only attract people who really want to work for the company, because they wouldn't want to waste their whole day with one company they didn't want to work for.
Yep. So what are the criteria for choosing candidates at SJ Cohen? What is the criteria that they use? There wasn't a whole lot, but there's a little section on it.
They put a lot of stock in resumes.
Yep.
Hired for fit.
Yeah, so this is what the thing says. It says it's not very clear what their criteria is. It really just says that they're hired for fit, and that's really about it. So it's not a very good hiring criteria. I mean, it's kind of, if that's all you're going for, you're probably not going to find the right person.
Is this something about dress? The way they dress too?
Mm-hmm. Sparkle.
Go ahead.
I was actually going to say, like they have databases now where, a hiring process, if you submit your resume online, it actually looks for keywords. So, I mean, the fit that they're looking for, this could be done by a computer, and then they should weed through the ones that are a good fit based off of their resumes. Like, so like a keyword, for example, like if you have a job that requires, a certain level of GPA or something like that. Like if in the resume, it just keywords finds numbers and phrases and stuff. And if it doesn't meet the qualifications, the building or the company never receives those resumes. It just automatically boots them out.
The problem
So
with that
if as long as the resumes actually come in with the keywords and it's kind of like a password, essentially those are the only resumes that even show up to the people. So I think that's something they could look into is finding a database that finds a good fit. I mean, a lot of companies are using it now. It's really cool. It just basically, yeah, like I said, it filters through if it doesn't have enough keywords or if it has like a certain amount of keywords that they're looking for, that hits their fit process. And then they go into, looking over these special fit candidates, and then they find the best ones based off of those. But at least, they know they're looking at the people that already have that fit. Like, I feel like this is like the very minimum, like I said, because I mean, if you type all these keywords or you make it sound like you know everything about this, you may not be a good fit, but you know how to write a good resume. So I think that's just like the first process is finding a good fit, and then you need to narrow it down from there.
I mean, you'd have more success doing that if it wasn't based on resumes and if you had just a form to fill out.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
My thing is, like, you're going to rule out people with a certain amount of GPA. That's not like, and I'm learning about this right now because I'm taking test and assessment for psychology. And one of the things we're learning about is how, for example, the GRE and the SAT and the ACT, they don't predict what they're supposed to predict. The only reason they even exist is because we need some kind of standard, and it's the only standard we've got. Now, we've gone to college. We know what GPA is and what GPA isn't. Like, it's a joke. And yet this is what the professional world runs on. And I don't know who's going to be the harbinger who comes along and says that all this is a bunch of crap, but it's going to happen at some point. So I don't know what companies are going to do to have a better hiring process in the future, but you can't go based on numbers. Everybody thinks you can measure people based on numbers, and you can't do it.
And that's a good point. Obviously, like I don't know if I necessarily agree. Like I think that you bring up a good point. Like I in high school my grades were terrible, but I learned my lesson when I came to college and I had to pay my full tuition myself out of my own pocket. My grades incredibly magically just turned to A's, and I ended up writing on a financial scholarship my first 2 years of school here. But then as classes got more difficult and I had to manage time with money and stuff like that, my grades started to decline a little bit. But and I just think this database, like I said, like maybe not the GPA, like you said, but even like keywords, like, I mean, it just need, like, let's say you have a communication class. If they don't even put the word communication or speech, like, or talking, like in their resume, it's just gonna bump it out because they're not a good fit. So I mentioned the GPA is just one of the things, because in theirs, they are looking for the highest or I get, like when it came to Natalia, like she had the highest GPA, and that's why they were considering her more. So I'm not saying it's like the perfect criteria, obviously, but it is one that you could put in a filter process.
I don't know. It's just like all this stuff is so arbitrary and it's all snap decisions, and I don't trust it.
Yeah.
Like, I would much rather, if I were hiring people, I would much rather talk to all their references and see how they actually performed on a day-to-day basis, because that matters a lot more.
Well, in that defense, like a counter argument, you have to be careful with people's references. I mean, they might choose people that are just good friends and they're willing to, back them up. But that's my counter argument with that. Like, I always wondered about.
Everyone does that, so it's like, if you you have to know what cues to look for at that point, because everyone does that. Everyone and their mom has ever done that. Like, you know that, surely.
Yeah. So I guess
cues to know
really grill the
trying to come off with a good impression, like what isn't actually good from that interview. You have to look for those.
Yeah.
All right. So part 3 is the school recruiting. So why was the choice of which schools to recruit at so important to S.G. Cohen? And would it make sense for the company to recruit from other graduate programs like law or technology? Why or why not?
I did actually make this comment once before. I do think they should widen their spread. I feel like again, that good fit and that good culture. Like, I think there's a lot of other like schools that still teach that good fit and probably are even better qualified than, you know, I feel like you're just narrowing your search down too much and limiting yourself based on people that are going to this school. Because, like, I'm just gonna say it, like, I know plenty of kids at this university that I would never want to hire. And then there are plenty of people here that I would, and I think that are gaining really cool experience. And I've run into people that I'm like, wow, I'd like to go into work with that kind of person. But I think that's the biggest thing that they're missing with a wide range of candidates. They wouldn't be so huddled if they just expanded their search and found other universities. I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah. Anybody else? So, what are the pros and cons of approaching to recruiting on campus? So, the pros and cons of recruiting people from campus.
I think that the pros to doing that is that you get a large turnout. You get a lot of different people applying or going to your recruiting thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the con is that the exact same thing. You get so many people, you don't really get a specified person. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain that. Just there's so many people, you just get whatever.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think, like you said, you can get a good turnout, but also you're probably getting a lot of unqualified people that it's a waste of time. I also think a con of it would be that being with unqualified, you know, they might just be looking to, you know, practice interviewing or something like that. And so it's really wasting your time of, you know, talking to people who aren't really serious about the job.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So are the associates the best people to send to campuses for recruiting? What about saving money and getting a more uniform by sending recruiters from the HR department? Would that be better or worse?
I think the associates are best just because they do everything on a day-to-day basis to be able to know like who'd be able to get the job done. It did talk about how they wanted to have senior bankers at the Super Saturday thing to make sure that the people they're hiring could actually have long-term potential in the company. But I think that's a mistake because like I feel like there should be rungs to this ladder almost. Like you can't decide what somebody's potential is going to be or what their interests and desires are going to be after they take this or before they even take the position, right? Like they should determine that later on after they've already been hired based on the employees who are available, I feel like. So I felt like that was a waste of time.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's almost like looking for people that are in the long haul, but like if they have no idea what they're getting into, like I think there's a very slim, if at all possible chance that they're going to find people that are actually passionate about it. I think, like you actually mentioned it before, Sean, I think it's really important that they would have people that actually work there, like employees and stuff like that. And you know, the team captains be the people that work there because there's, I'm trying to think, I went to the career fair last semester and I almost thought it was going to be a big waste of time. I actually only went because I had another kid in my class and he was telling me about it and he sold me on it. So I went and then, you know, I had a couple resumes and everything and I was talking to everybody and like some of the people were just like the owners of these companies and they would just be like, yeah, I'll get you to talk to someone else. And it was just weird. Like it was almost like, I'm here, this is my company and you could work for me. But I had no idea, like he doesn't even know what his employees do for him every day. You know, he's got like a whole hiring process. So like those people I quickly just felt alienated too. Like I just didn't know what, like, I mean, he explained what his business was, but like none of that I'd be doing. Like I'd probably be just putting numbers in a computer somewhere, you know, like I didn't know. So like when the difference was when I finally found a job that actually I'm going to be working after school, I found him and he is an actual like field agent and he was telling me like what it is that he's doing every day and he gave me like a day-to-day routine and that helped me make a decision based off of that, like knowing what I'd be in for and agreeing to work with that. So I think that is important. And the on campus reminded me a lot of the career fair that we have going on every semester. So
Yeah, I agree. I think having the associates would be the best, just because, like you said, I mean, they know what work actually needs to be done and what kind of people it takes to actually do the work. Anything else? All right, part 4, Super Saturday. Some of these we pretty much have already talked about. What are the pros and cons of the Super Saturday approach?
I think a pro is that you get it done. It's taken care of. It's all done in one day. And you also get good people for your job. I don't know if they're the best fit, but you get good people. And just a con being that it's such a time crunch, like we talked about earlier, about not having enough time to make an informed, good decision.
Yeah, people are just making snap judgments.
Yeah.
Some of the other questions.
It talked about how they were having their lunch meeting or whatever, like the executives were having their lunch meeting. They were all like debating with each other over these people for 15 minutes.
It's like speed dating.
Yeah.
So one of the other questions says, do any of the objectives
doesn't
conflict
work
with
when
one
speed
another?
interviewing supposedly work. That doesn't make any sense.
And so I think what you said, the con is that you're in that time crunch. And I think the idea that you want to find a qualified person and the fact that you can't because you need to do it in a couple hours. I mean, you're not going to find somebody that works good for you guys if you only get, a couple hours to do it. I would think doing like a super weekend or super week would be way more effective than doing it in one day for half the day.
Yeah. All right, guys, I got to go. So I'm going to drop, but thanks for the discussion.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you later, Taylor.
So for the wrap up, what is the difference between recruiting and hiring?
So I think recruiting is when you're trying to find prospective employees, and then hiring is when you actually decide who you want to work for you.
Yeah. Develop the pool like we learned.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't feel like recruiting should ever be like a one-on-one, or I mean, like it's not effective. But then like hiring is when you're one-on-one because you get down to it. Like you can give a lot of information about a company and like in a seminar, which is great because like on the Super Saturday, I know the CEO was present and he would like hold the seminar where he'd give like speeches and stuff, and he would even like it would be like inspiring and it'd be kind of cool. And then you can kind of get passionate about like the business, and then like eventually you could find your niche in there, or like find your place in there because you might have like a certain skill set that makes you like one of the tech guys or customer service or whatever. But I think that recruiting, big numbers, hiring, you're narrowing it down, obviously.
Yeah, I think the recruiting and the hiring, there's a big difference between, getting your kind of doing like the career fairs and stuff, job fairs, getting your business out there and saying like, hey, look, we're looking for these kind of people and stuff, for this qualification and all this. And then the hiring is actually doing like the interview process and picking the candidate that you actually want.
Kind of like football, I liken everything to football, but they get a big pool and then they go out and they spend more time with each individual player. And I think maybe that's a better way to approach it than just having 30 people come out and listen, that they get more in depth when they just do more one-on-one.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Anything else
I don't have anything.
you would like to add? Perfect. I will stop the broadcast.